"You're trespassing on HOA property." That's what she screamed, her voice slicing through the quiet morning like a rusty blade. I hadn't even finished my coffee when Karen Mitchell came storming across my yard, clutching a clipboard like it was a weapon. What she didn't know, what would eventually destroy her entire HOA, was that she was the one standing on my land. She wore her usual uniform of suburban power, a crisp Meadowbrook HOA polo, spotless khakis, and that pinched expression of someone who's been drunk on petty authority for too long. Her blonde ponytail was pulled tight, her eyes sharp with indignation. I didn't move. I just placed my mug down carefully on the porch railing and said, "Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake. This is my property. I've got the deed and the survey inside if you'd like to see them." She sneered, waving her pen like a sword. "Every property here falls under HOA jurisdiction. You're in violation of at least a dozen codes. Your fence is too high, your mailbox is non-compliant, and those shutters totally unapproved." Her tone was so certain it could have fooled someone else, but not me. I'd bought this land precisely because it sat outside HOA boundaries. I smiled politely. "You're welcome to call whoever you like, Mrs. Mitchell. While you do that, I'll be recording for my own records." The second I said recording, her expression faltered. I could almost see her recalculating. People who thrive on intimidation don't like cameras. But she straightened up again, trying to recover her authority. "Fine, record all you want. It'll be evidence when we take you to court." Then she spun on her heel and marched back toward her kingdom of beige conformity. I stood there long after she left, sipping what was left of my coffee. The survey map in my filing cabinet showed my property line ended 42 feet before HOA territory began. But Karen, she acted like she owned the county. I had no idea then just how far she'd go to prove it. 3 days later, a courier dropped off a thick envelope, a notice of violation. 3 pages of legal fluff demanding $1,500 in fines. Fence height, mailbox design, landscaping plan. None of it real, none of it enforceable. The signature at the bottom read, "Karen Mitchell, HOA Compliance Officer." That was when the patrols began. Cars slowing down in front of my house. Neighbors who once waved now hurried inside. Every night headlights lingered in my driveway just long enough to make me feel watched. Intimidation disguised as community enforcement. And it worked. For a while. I stopped drinking coffee on the porch, started checking locks twice. The house felt smaller, tense, like it was holding its breath with me. Then one morning I saw it, bright orange spray paint slashed across my grandfather's oak tree. Arrows, the word violation, scrawled across my mailbox post. My security footage told the rest of the story. Karen and 2 of her cronies trespassing at dawn, carrying spray cans like vandals on a mission. That's when something inside me flipped. I'd been playing defense. But this was war. I called the sheriff's department. Deputy Martinez showed up within an hour, watched the footage, and said exactly what I needed to hear. This is trespassing, plain and simple. That night I didn't sleep much. Anger buzzed under my skin, but beneath it was exhaustion, the kind that makes you question yourself. Maybe it wasn't worth it. Maybe I should just pay the damn fines and move on. But then I looked out at that old oak tree, the one my grandfather planted in '73, and I remembered why I bought this place. This land was family, history, principle. Karen wasn't just trespassing on my property, she was trampling on that. So I hired a property lawyer named Laura Pierce. Smart, calm, sharp as glass. I showed her everything, the letters, the footage, the surveys, the county records. She flipped through it all and said, "This isn't complicated. You're right, they're wrong. Let's start with a cease and desist letter and give them a chance to hang themselves with their own arrogance." A week later, that letter landed in Karen's mailbox. And the next morning she showed up on my porch in a bathrobe, hair wild, waving the letter like it was a death threat. "You can't threaten me," she screamed. "I'm protecting this neighborhood from people like you." I didn't even raise my voice. "All communication goes through my attorney," I said, and closed the door while she was still yelling. The camera above the door caught her standing there for 5 long minutes shaking. That was the moment she realized her power was slipping and she didn't know how to live without it. 2 days later, she called an emergency HOA meeting. I decided to go. The room was packed with 50 or 60 residents. Karen sat in the center, flanked by board members who looked like they regretted every life choice that had led them there. She started strong, spinning a story about me being a troublemaker trying to undermine community standards. She even pulled out a hand-drawn map, seriously, hand-drawn, claiming HOA authority stretched all the way to my property line and beyond. When she finished, I stood up. "If you don't mind, I'd like to show the real map." I laid down the official county survey, the deed and the assessor's letter confirming my land had never been part of Meadowbrook. The room fell silent. The contrast between my documents and Karen's sketch was almost funny if it hadn't been so sad. Board members started whispering. One of them, David Thompson, asked, "Karen, did you ever verify these boundaries with the county?" She snapped, "I don't need to. I know where our authority extends." That arrogance, that refusal to even check, was her undoing. The board called a recess, then returned with a statement all enforcement outside official HOA boundaries was suspended pending legal review. Karen's face went white. Her empire was cracking. But she didn't stop. She doubled down, wandering the neighborhood with a clipboard like a ghost of authority, harassing anyone who'd supported me. She posted rants online, shared pictures of my property, urged others to watch me. She was unraveling in real time, and every post was evidence. When she crossed onto my property again, broad daylight. This time, Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, called me at work. "She's in your backyard measuring something. I drove home faster than I should have." And there she was, standing by my shed with a tape measure and her phone muttering to herself about zoning violations. I said, "Mrs. Mitchell, you're trespassing. Leave now." She didn't move. "I have every right to inspect violations," she barked, snapping another photo. "You have 30 seconds to leave before I call the police." She actually laughed. Then Deputy Martinez pulled up. Same deputy as before. She looked at Karen, then at me, and sighed. "Mrs. Mitchell, you're under arrest for criminal trespass." Even as they cuffed her, Karen kept yelling about her authority. That image, her shouting while the badge clicked over her wrists, was the closest thing to justice I'd ever seen. A week later, we stood in court. Karen on one side, me and Laura on the other. The judge, a stern man named Morrison, didn't waste time. Laura presented everything: the videos, the letters, the county surveys, even Karen's own Facebook rants. The judge listened in silence. When the video of the arrest played, you could hear a pin drop. Then Karen made the fatal mistake of insisting on speaking for herself. "Your Honor," she said, voice trembling but loud, "I've been protecting this neighborhood for 8 years. I know where our authority reaches. I don't need maps to tell me that." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Mitchell, do you have any legal document to support that claim?" She pulled out the same hand-drawn map. The judge looked at it, then at her. "This isn't a legal record. This is a sketch." And just like that, it was over. He granted the restraining order, found her guilty of harassment and fraud, ordered damages for vandalism, and recommended she be removed from her position permanently. He even referred the case to the Attorney General for investigation into the HOA's conduct. When the gavel fell, Karen's shoulders sagged for the first time. Her kingdom of paper rules and empty threats had collapsed under the weight of actual law. Within weeks, the Meadowbrook HOA unraveled completely. The board resigned, lawsuits piled up, and the state opened an investigation. Karen lost her job, her house, and every shred of credibility she'd built on intimidation. I didn't celebrate. I just went home, sat on my porch, and looked at that oak tree, the one that had marked our boundary for half a century. Its roots were deep, its branches wide, solid, and unshakable. Karen never understood boundaries. She thought they were walls to control people, not lines that define respect. She learned the hard way that real authority isn't something you scream loud enough to create, it's something you earn. And in the end, all her shouting couldn't change one simple truth. The law doesn't bend for bullies.